They say that the master of mankind made it to cleanse Terra of every stain of taint. I watched it cleanse Koranis in a single night. Not a wall left standing, not a soul left breathing. Wings, fire, and that terrible light. We cheered when it first appeared. By dawn, we were praying that it would never look our way again. Some weapons are too pure for the world that needs them. The Emperor has acquired the Flame of the Heavens. Within the warp gate on Moloch, he labored for the attention and patronage of the Great Four, yet at the very last second he snatched from their hands the powers without giving any promises or oaths, without giving in to rage, treachery, rot, or decadence. Before this, he had been amongst, if not the most powerful psyker ever spawned by mankind, capable of reading the flow of time and causality, but now he was in a league of his own. With such power came an entire new territory of influence and domain. Power to break fate, knowledge to forge new paths, endurance to overcome the cosmos, and willpower to resist anything that would try to alter his course. But amongst these were a power he had never had before. The ability to peel off shards of his soul, the ability to create daemons. In the long dark of the Age of Strife, when Old Night had drowned Terra in a storm of iron, blood, and even the most uncontrolled psychers that would emerge to scream holes in reality, the Emperor brought a weapon to fight back. The unholy horrors that clawed their way from psychers' deepest fears and nightmares were not an enemy that blades of bullets could actually touch. More than often, not even the wonders of humanity from the Golden Age would prove sufficient to do anything about these abominations, maybe other than holding them back. When such things were combated, it was through sacrifice so great that one could argue that it might not have been worth it, or even worse, that in order to achieve victory, the forces of the Emperor had to use the very superstition and psychic filth that he was trying to rid humanity of. The Emperor had acquired the torch to light the way for his people, and now was the time to use the fire to burn away that which threatened it. Deep beneath the ruins of the Himalayan mountains, in ritual-laden laboratories lit by the dying light of Scaven fusion cores, he gathered everything that he would need. The special genome of an ancient light of humanity whose ancestor had sacrificed themselves for the greater good of the human race in ancient times, alongside fragments of the biodesign technology from the Dark Age of technology. With these tools, he had many a times woven flesh and blood together. His Thunder Warriors were a test to that, but this time he had something else to add to the mix. This time he added a fragment of his very own unique and newly acquired power, refined and bound into the living flesh into gene casket in front of him. The process had never been attempted before by the Emperor of Mankind. He had never wielded such power before, and he knew that the ruinous powers were on the move against him. So in a rare moment, he let go of his restraints. He let the shard of power flow freely, altering the form that it has been given to better suit its needs. He let the nascent golden light touch and cradle his own mind, allowing it to understand his wishes on an instinctual level, and most of all, he let that which were forming take aspects from him and use them. Nobility, purity, power, and drive. Some would say that he was a madman for attempting to create such a creature, but up above his sanctum, the world was burning, and humanity was slowly choking on a poisoned sky and getting crushed beneath boots of those who would rather burn everything if they could not rule, and worst of all, their souls were being preyed upon by things from beyond our own world. The Emperor had to act now. The course was steep. The fire of the gods burned in such a way that even the one holding the torch could fall prey to its light, and the creation did something that no other thing would do to the Emperor for hundreds, if not thousands of years. It left the Emperor drained and weakened, his psychic presence dimmed for a time. Unwittingly, this creation would soon do something else that nothing else in the cosmos would do for a very long time. It would teach the Emperor a lesson. A lesson that forging a thing to be perfect in its purpose leaves no room for anything else. What arose from the gene casket stood roughly twice the height of an ordinary human, with skin that of tarnished gold, and its eyes were nothing but hollow socket, if not for the pinprick of bright blue flame that rested there. Its powerful frame bore 2 pairs of large mighty wings that emitted an aura of purifying energy. The angel looked towards the Emperor and recognized its creator, tilting its head as if out of curiosity. It would look upon the blade which the Emperor had drawn and held in his hand at his side. It would then look towards its own empty hand, and with nothing but a thought, wreathe a blade of burning light into existence. The fire of the gods had been let loose, and now it was time to burn. In the terrible irradiated ashes of terror, true abominable horrors from beyond human understanding were feasting upon the carcass of the Golden Age. One of these many horrors was that of the demon prince Faraguetla, an ancient horror that had haunted Terra since before the rise of the first cities. The creature had fed upon the terror of the Age of Strife, growing fat on the unrestrained psychos who blossomed like cancers across the irradiated continents. This vile thing of the warp was no threat that any force could deal with on the planet, and for millennia the Demon Prince had toyed with humanity, using them as pawns for its schemes of murder, mass destruction, and wholesale slaughter. If its own claims are to be believed, Faraguetla had seen galaxies born and die, and has destroyed whole star systems for nothing but its own amusement. Such a force were beyond gravity cannons, rail rifles, and exotic beam emitters. Such an enemy played upon a whole different set of rules of engagement, such as sorcery and magics, and that would be to impede in the very things that would open you up to corruption. The answer to such a challenge was to apply the Angel of Destruction. The skies over the rat-scoured plains of Old Terra burned the colors of old blood. Lightning forked through the perpetual storm rack that had choked the world since the Age of Strife began, and in the flashes of the unnatural light, the two combatants were revealed. Faraguetla rose first, a thing that had never been born and could never truly die. Its form was a shifting blasphemy of horn and claw and burning eyes. A demon prince older than the first human's birth scream. A predator that has stalked the cradle world since the species first learned to fear the dark. Its unfleshed boiled and reformed with every heartbeat, and wings of living shadow and teeth unfurled, sucking in light from the surroundings, bathing the battlefield in even deeper shadow. When it spoke, it was the sound of grinding civilizations and the laughter of every soul it had ever unmade. The Emperor's living weapon waited in silence. Vast wings of pure white and pale fire stretched wide, its feet just an inch above the impure dirt of Terra. A halo of pure merciless light crowned its head, and in its fist it gripped a sword that burned with flame so intense that the air itself would scream out as it turned to plasma where the blade passed. Wherever the angel's feet touched this impure earth, blue fire lingered, branding the soil with the mark of its passing. It had no name, it needed none. It was judgment given form, a weapon forged for only one purpose, the absolute annihilation of the impure. Faraguetla struck first, a tide of warped flesh and screaming faces crashing down with the force of a collapsing hive spire. Reality tore, ground erupted in fountains of molten rock and half-formed nightmares. The angel answered with a single perfect stroke of its flaming blade. Blue fire carved a canyon through the demon's mass, leaving for the first time since its ascension a true wound. The violations of its flesh did not bleed, it screamed, a psychic howl that burst the eardrums of every living thing for 100 leagues and left any that would survive clawing at their eyes as madness broke their mind. The demon prince reeled and then it laughed. It struck with claws that did not tear just at the flesh, but at the very stuff of souls, and it raked them across the angel's chest. Physical force that could have shattered void shields merely staggered the Emperor's creation. The angel's wings beat once, and a hurricane of blue flames scoured the plane clean of lesser neverborn that had gathered to watch their master feed. Faraguetla's form collapsed inward and then exploded outward in a jungle of tentacles and mouths. It would drown the angel in pure unreality, to unmake the thing just the same way that it had unmade kings and empires before it. The angel did not falter. The flaming sword rose and fell in a rhythm older than mercy. Each cut was final. Each cut was absolute. Blue fire scoured the unreality created by the vile thing of the warp, and each landed strike brought fire that clung to the daemon's wounds and began to consume it. For the first time, Faraguetla knew something close to fear. The Demon Prince gathered the last of its strength, ripping open a wound in the veil between worlds. The sky above Terra split like rotten meat, and beyond the rent lay the cold dark between the stars, a trackless void where even the Emperor's light had not yet reached, and with a final roar, the Demon Prince hurled itself through the breach, fleeing the field of battle. The Angel of Destruction stood amid the blue burning ruins of the battlefield, wings half furled, sword still raised. The halo around its head flared brighter. It turned its featureless, radiant gaze towards the closing rift and the fleeing abomination beyond it. The angel did not speak, it did not need to, for the hunt had only begun. Faraguetla fled Terra, only to be hunted across the void and finally imprisoned in the bedrock of the world that would one day be called Cariscephalon. And in the years that followed, the angel's pure wrath was unleashed time and time again, carving through ranks of lesser neverborn and mortal thralls alike. Where it passed, cities of the possessed were reduced to ash and blackened glass, and even the greater servants of the ruinous power found themselves exorcised, banished, and even some of them experiencing true death at the hands of the Angel of Destruction. The lore tells us of another great threat that the Emperor's divine tool of judgment was unleashed upon. A Demon Prince so truly horrific that the Emperor himself decreed that all mentions of its name would be removed from humanity's history and be condemned to the fires of the Unification War. Each time, the angel performed its purpose with terrifying efficiency, leaving only silence and the scorched earth in its wake. This angel was a living weapon of near unparalleled potency for its age. Physical blows such as tank fire or the physical attacks of the impure would only stagger it momentarily, none of it ever able to wound it. The angel itself was utterly immune to psychic assault, where any attempt to strike it with such powers of the warp would rebound back upon the aggressor in a catastrophic feedback loop that would have them boil and die under their own power. Its presence alone became so powerful that the lesser of the Neverborn scattered upon its arrival, and rumors surged among the mortal levies that had seen this angel that just calling upon its protection would leave you out of the reach of the Neverborn. For a time, the boon of such a creature was absolute. No weapon in the Emperor's arsenal could match its focused capacity for annihilation. In this age, when Terra itself threatened to sink forever into the madness of the warp, the angel was a final, perfect answer. Yet perfection in destruction carries its own curse. The more the angel was deployed, the more that it was used, the more clearly it came to learn of humanity and perceived the fundamental impurity within mankind. Every human soul it saw, it came to understand more and more that they carried the latent seeds of the warp. Everybody who lay its eyes upon it only saw the taint and potential mutation within them. Every psyche it felt was a doorway into a world entirely defined by corruption and impurity. And even the Emperor, with every compromise that he would agree to, it saw only weakness, and in every generation that would survive in the Age of Strife, it saw merely a delay against the triumph of chaos. The angel began to despise, it began to judge, and it began to judge its creator, and most of all, those that he held dear. A warning of what was to come came at the city of Koranis. Here, the angel of judgment judged an entire population unworthy of the Emperor's light and reduced the city to ashes in a single night of blood and blue fire. In the ashes of this place, the angel had made its choice. It would defeat everything impure, no matter the cost. The angel no longer distinguished between the souls of demons and humans. To it, both were equally flawed and impure, both to be exorcised and expunged from the universe. Nothing the Emperor possessed could touch this angel. No amount of bolt of fire would ever harm it. No remnant of the Golden Age could mark its flesh, and the Emperor himself did not dare lay his psychic might upon it, for he understood that even his power carried what would be considered impure. The angel was a blade without a hilt. Once drawn, it cut the hand that held it as readily as the foe that it had been drawn against, and now the blood flowed. Here the Emperor would prove why he would deserve to be called the master of mankind. For even robbed of weapons such as power or might, he proved that the most dangerous things about him is his intellect and his ability to manipulate. The Emperor understood that the angel was a creature with a mind that was unlike that of man. It had no ego, no empathy, no ideals to exploit. It was a pure creature, a thing which has had its whole being created to cleanse the chaos of the world and all of those within it. While such a thing could be perceived as an absolute strength, Big E had learned that such singular focus would blind everybody and everything, even this thing. The final confrontation was neither clean nor bloodless. The Emperor knew that the angel could not be destroyed by any means that he possessed. This angel of destruction had become a thing of its own, a daemon of the Emperor, or rather, a daemon prince of the Emperor, and as such, the very nature of Big E's power could never destroy it. He chose internal imprisonment. Even with everything that the angel had wrought, such a powerful weapon against chaos could not be entirely discarded. Maybe he thought that once the galaxy was conquered, he could return and refine this creature. Sacrificing several of his personal friends amongst the custodies, he managed to lure the angel using the tainted remains of the previous Daemon Prince into the very gene cradle that had birthed it. Around it, a sarcophagus of blackened iron sealed it, and upon it, every ward and gene log of the Emperor's personal design was placed upon it. No longer the Angel of Destruction, now it would be known as the Sleeper. This, however, would not be the last time that the universe would taste the wrath of this angel. For millennia, its location would remain a mystery, though through fate and eldritch machinations, eventually it would be placed upon the very world of the prison of the Daemon Prince. The mantle of Caris Salathorn had held him deep beneath the continents of rock and the slow grinding pressure of the world's heart for tens of thousands of years. Here he had raged in silence, sealed by the anathema in living stone, by wards of impossible potency, and even with a fragment of ever-burning essence as the final lock. But now that lock broke. Thanks to his pawns up above, he was freed, and the bedrock screamed as the planetary crust broke by veins of black lightning from the sky. Mountain splits, and from the deepest wound, the demon priest Faraguetla returned to the cosmos. Reality recoiled, the sky tore, and lesser demons burst forth from rents like blood from a fresh wound. The demon prince's laughter rolled across the land like rolling thunder. Free at last! Faraguetla spread its wings of living night and looked upon the stars with its ancient hunger. The Imperium had grown fat and weak in its absence. Humanity has spread across the galaxy like a plague of insects, and every one of them would learn anew what it meant to fear the dark. He would unmake worlds. He would drink the souls of trillions. He would... The laughter died in his throat. In the shadows of a ruined spire, something waited that should not have been there. A sarcophagus of blackened adamantium, of forgotten alloys, half buried in the rubble of ages, its surface marked with warts that even a thing such as him could feel like knives against his essence. The casket seal was opened by mortal hands, and a single vertical seam glowed with cold light. From that seam, a blade of blue flame emerged. The Demon Prince had been freed and brought back through the workings of a malevolent chaos cult, and once more it was ready to spread its darkness and wrath onto humanity. However, in a kaiju battle of magnitude, the Demon Prince would be beat back by the Angel, as radical elements of the Inquisition had freed the Angel. It once again tore and destroyed the Demon Prince, but as we know, it is its nature to turn upon its rescuer, seeing within them as much impurity as the vile thing itself, placing its judgment upon them, and declaring that all of humanity would eventually fall to chaos and therefore must be exterminated. Only by repeating the Emperor's original method, using what remained of the daemon as bait, were the ancients able to reseal it once more. Now, the Angel rests in the custody of senior Inquisitor Lords, its current resting place only known to the highest and most secretive circles of the Emperor's Inquisition. Thank you so much for listening. I have been looking forward to talking about this piece of lore. Consider leaving a like and subscribe, as we are pretty close to what is a huge milestone for me. So anyways, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.